This is the Nash Villager Podcast. It's July 2nd, 2026. And if some of our nation's founding fathers had their way, this would be the big day for celebrating America's 250th birthday. Because this day in 1776 was when the Second Continental Congress cast the vote to formally declare freedom from British rule. John Adams believed it would become the most celebrated date in all the land. But the vote that happened on this day was about the concept. It took another 2 days to draft the actual letter that would be sent to King George III, which is why the colonial representatives didn't sign that Declaration of Independence until the 4th. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with context and backstory from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Is there any day that feels more thoroughly American than the 4th of July? The fact that it falls early enough in summer that we mostly still want to be outside sure doesn't hurt. That makes it feel so natural to go outside and mingle, to have homegrown parades through the neighborhood or share some ice pops with a neighbor. One year, my family went to the Gulf Coast for the 4th. We ended up on the beach at dusk, and the vibe was entirely different from what it normally was. Instead of everyone staying in their own little family zone, basically ignoring the other groups, we found ourselves talking to other beachgoers, exchanging Happy 4th of July with folks we didn't know, as we all looked down the coast to see different fireworks displays spring up from various towns and vacation properties, stretching for miles. It was an incredibly warm feeling of community. And it's hard to even imagine our country without this annual festival of patriotism. But in the early days, it wasn't really a thing. In fact, on the first anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, leaders only remembered they were coming up on the anniversary the day prior. There was certainly no plan for any kind of commemoration. And honestly, that little bit of forgetfulness may be why they decided we should mark the 4th instead of the 2nd. Better to pick the day they hadn't already missed. But even then, celebrating the 4th as a holiday didn't really become a thing until the 18-teens, well after Nashville had become a city and Tennessee achieved statehood. Now, for a little while, it was a popular day to start new community endeavors. For example, July 4th, 1811 was the formal founding date of the Nashville Female Academy. Technically, that was a school for the daughters of well-to-do families, but more than that, it was a cultural center for women of all ages and the hub of musical activity in early Nashville. The cornerstone of the Tennessee State Capitol building was laid on July 4th, 1845. According to an account written in 1877, the nation's centennial was marked in Nashville by shutting down all businesses for the day, ringing every church bell in the city, and an evening band concert on the State House grounds. Now, the bicentennial in 1976 was on a whole other level. Archival photos from the Tennessean show that there were celebrations all over the city. At Centennial Park, crowds showed up to hear then-Mayor Richard Fulton recite Patrick Henry's "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" speech, accompanied by the Nashville Symphony. Over at the Fairgrounds Speedway, an estimated 20,000 people attended a bicentennial Independence Day concert. Opryland had special games like bobbing for apples and a watermelon eating contest. The entire nation seemed to be on board for marking the bicentennial with three-cornered hats and Betsy Ross-style flags. Around that time, McDonald's opened a location in Franklin that leaned hard into the town's namesake, founding father, Ben Franklin. The decor was drawn from the Revolutionary War era, and even a couple of years after the bicentennial, when my mother briefly worked there, the uniform for staff included period-appropriate headwear. I have vague memories of being thrilled that Mom had a fabric mob cap to wear, just like Martha Washington. This 250th 4th of July doesn't quite feel the same. This moment certainly hasn't been marked by mass nostalgia. And of course, in a million little ways, and plenty of big ones, we aren't the same. These 50 years have brought a lot of change to the world and the nation, and those years have changed who we are as Americans. They've added new layers of complexity to people's points of view about what patriotism looks like. And let's be honest, it's not ideal to have the 4th land at the end of a heat wave that made us hesitant to be outside for longer than it takes to move from the air conditioning in the house to the air conditioning in our cars. But this weekend, we will have plenty of chances to gather with each other, to offer smiles and greetings to people we know and folks we don't, to eat messy foods like barbecue and watermelon, to cool off in lakes and streams and swimming pools, to find a touch of community at its purest, simplest level. The city of Nashville is stepping things up this year, expanding the Independence Day celebration to be a 2-day affair, starting tomorrow and culminating in an explosion of fireworks and drones that organizers say will be the biggest this city has ever seen. And of course, there will be homegrown displays popping up from yards all around Middle Tennessee. Now just remember that in Nashville, the law says only pros can set off fireworks. In most of the surrounding counties and towns, if they are allowed, there are local regulations about which days and which hours you should set them off. So stay hydrated, find shade where you can, remember safety when you set off those Roman candles. But most of all, let's just be neighborly while we all have a little fun. In just a few minutes, a look at how some Tennessee communities have chosen to mark this 250th anniversary. That's coming up after the newscast.
I like to say Nashvillager in the morning, this is Nashville in the afternoon. I'm Blake Farmer, the new host, and yes, WPLN's Midday Show is also a podcast, and we understand lunchtime listening may not be your thing, but that doesn't mean you have to sit out. You can listen wherever you get your podcast, like right here, or ask your smart speaker to play the latest episode of This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. In response to this week's Supreme Court ruling upholding birthright citizenship, Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles has introduced a bill that would narrow who qualifies. The legislation, called the Anchors Away Act, would limit citizenship to babies born in the country with at least one parent who's a citizen, a lawful permanent resident, or an immigrant with legal status serving in the military. The bill would also bar pregnant people from entering the country if they aren't married to a U.S. citizen. That would include people entering as tourists. In statements on social media, Ogles suggested birthright citizenship is used to, quote, embed foreigners in American society. He said he believes immigrants are colonizing the United States and that ending birthright citizenship is necessary to save the country's sovereignty. Well, as a lawsuit against a state immigration law moves forward, Tennessee attorneys will be working with a group of doctors to decide how to enforce it. The new law would have required the state health department to report families without legal status to immigration authorities, including severely ill and disabled kids who rely on state programs for life-saving treatment.
There's nobody that wants this. There's not a person in the state of Tennessee that thinks this is okay.
That's Dr. Morgan McDonald, a pediatrician who serves on the Board of Health in Nashville. The bill's sponsor has echoed that sentiment, saying that the new law was not intended to impact children. It came to Tennessee as part of the state's collaboration with the White House, bringing federal immigration policy to the state level. The court has stopped the law from taking effect this week, but now both parties will have to agree on how to proceed. A federal court is blocking the state takeover of Memphis Shelby County schools, at least for now. Lawmakers created a board that siphons a lot of power away from the locally elected school board. The new board is charged with overseeing all major contracts. It also has the power to make big budget decisions. The state board was supposed to take over yesterday. At the last minute, a federal judge ordered the new board to stand down. The district argued it needed an emergency decision in order to do normal business for the next school year, like hiring people. The judge agreed and issued an order blocking the new board from operating for at least 2 weeks. In the meantime, the case challenging the constitutionality of the state board is still going forward. Well, the hottest ticket in Nashville next week isn't a concert or a sporting event. It's a ticket to speak at Tuesday night's Metro Council meeting, when city leaders will consider multiple proposals to regulate new data centers. WPLN's Cynthia Abrams reports the city is enacting the new protocol in anticipation of a flood of speakers.
This isn't the first time Nashvillians have spoken out about data centers.
I don't want my family or myself around a data center, period, nor would I farm my animals near one.
The fact we have to come here and argue against building data centers at Fisk University and right next to the zoo feels insane.
I know for a fact that none of my neighbors would want a data center in their community, whether it's 100 feet away or half a mile.
Those were residents speaking at a Metro Planning Commission hearing last month. This is the first time that the Metro Council has required tickets to speak at a public hearing. The move comes after years of tension over the council's process for handling hot-button public hearings. During last month's budget hearing, people like Darkenia Waller complained about that.
I'm disturbed by the fact that there are seniors, there are folks with disability, there are folks with children, there are folks who don't speak the language well, who are vying for an opportunity to get in this line. And it is the strongest, the fittest, who are getting there first.
The council says the ticketing process aims to minimize time spent standing in line. The tickets are just for people who want to talk about two pieces of data center legislation, one which creates zoning restrictions around new centers, and another which would enact a temporary moratorium. Anyone wishing to speak about other items on public hearing will not need a ticket. Cynthia Abrams, WPLN News.
The council will start handing out tickets at 5 p.m. on the second floor of the historic Metro Courthouse on Tuesday. Well, as WPLN has reported, Nashville officials want to seize some land near the zoo to block a planned data center. The company behind the project says its plans are not going to change. This week, Mayor Freddie O'Connell filed eminent domain legislation. That's a tool governments use to forcibly buy land from people. It's best known as the way land is acquired for projects like new highways or airport runway expansions. O'Connell says the move is specifically to block the proposed data center near the zoo. Metro Council would have to vote to condemn the property, and then city officials would have to negotiate a fair market price. The firm behind the proposal, DC Blocks, tells the Nashville Business Journal it's pushing forward. An attorney for the company says the seizure would be illegal. The head of the Nashville Zoo says eminent domain should be rare, but he also points to a petition that 500,000 people have signed. He says the public is asking for the project to be blocked and that the city should listen. The Metro Ethics Board has issued a formal warning to a council member related to her votes on East Bank redevelopment. The Ethics Board says Courtney Johnson did break disclosure rules. Johnston was a volunteer board member for the Music City Children's Museum. That organization is eyeing a project on the East Bank. The Nashville Banner reports she voted on some zoning changes that helped the museum's cause. Johnston didn't list the volunteer position on disclosure paperwork. She said she mistakenly thought it wasn't needed because she wasn't benefiting financially. The Ethics Board noted she stepped down from the board and declined to punish her. One of Nashville's unique contributions to the culinary world gets its annual due this weekend. The Music City Hot Chicken Festival is turning 20 years old. Former Mayor Bill Purcell helped launch the event well before hot chicken became a global phenomenon that now, by some estimates, is marketed in more than 2,000 restaurants. Purcell tells This Is Nashville it hasn't yet peaked.
I don't think we're at the limits yet of what hot chicken can do or be. It's a big world, and there's several billion people in it, and most of them have not had Nashville hot chicken, but they can.
The former mayor has been steadily banging the drum for hot chicken and will lead the festival's parade at 10:30 Saturday at East Park. Purcell says he never settles for mild versions. He was there live when show host Blake Farmer took a bite of hot, and you can see what happened by visiting WPLN on YouTube. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Tennessee communities have had the opportunity to mark the 250th anniversary of the country in their own way. Government grants have helped pay for projects that span from monuments to a historical play. WPLN's Mary Mancini takes us to a few places where local history is becoming part of the country's larger story.
For this year's big anniversary, special festivities are joining the usual parades and illuminations. Consider Franklin, Tennessee, where Cheryl Mahler represents the Old Glory chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution.
I would like to welcome you to this auspicious occasion, the unveiling of the statue Ben on the Bench.
She's standing at a podium outside the Williamson County Archives and Museum, just a few feet away from the life-size bronze replica of our bifocal-wearing founding father relaxing on a park bench. A couple of bronze birds join him, and the other side of the bench is empty. Pam Lewis, the driving force behind securing the sculpture, says both the symbolism and location are important.
We're inviting people to come and sit down. And then when we were positioning the statue, I wanted it angled toward the post office because he also was our first postmaster general.
The huge crowd has come to see the statue and take a step back in time. There's even a visit from Ben Franklin himself.
who would want to name a city after me? And so I consulted with Hugh, my friend, Hugh Williamson. He's a brilliant scientist. And I asked him, he thought it was a wonderful idea. I should have a city named. I said, well, Mr. Williamson, someone should name something after you, but much larger, perhaps a county.
Look, this is a dead white guy, right? Quote unquote.
Robbie Grayson also attended, drawn by what he believes makes this founding father stand apart from the rest.
But we all are connected to him in some form or fashion. If you look around, you got people of all ages, people from all different backgrounds. So there's something transcendent about Franklin, which I believe is what his genius was.
A few miles northeast at the historic Veit Fessenden House in Lebanon, the Wilson County Historical Society cut the ribbon to open the American Revolution Experience Traveling Exhibit. The exhibit's 12 panels and 3 kiosks are displayed in the front rooms of the red brick house, built in 1860 by Benjamin Veit, the grandson of a Revolutionary War veteran.
How did it come to this? Why are these American subjects facing down their king, George III, and his empire?
James Jordan, president of the Historical Society Board, says they're honored to have been chosen to host the exhibit.
I had ancestors that fought in the Revolution too, and it's very important to me to educate the future generations of what the sacrifices were. I mean, it was treason.
Alexa Mascardelli, also on the board, says it made her realize how complicated the decision was: stay loyal to Great Britain or join the revolution.
It would have been hard to decide you were going to take this big step because so many of your friends and neighbors weren't taking that big step.
While the exhibit is federally funded, the state legislature created the Tennessee Commission for the U.S. Semi-Quincentennial to award nearly $4 million in grants for local projects. Carrie Tipton, state coordinator for the commission, says some of the ideas came out of listening sessions held in communities statewide.
And what they found out in these listening sessions is that Tennesseans wanted to see durable, long-lasting projects come out of the Semi-Quin commemorations. And so the grant program was designed to facilitate some longer-term projects that may even go on and last well beyond June 30th of next year.
The commission funded grants to safeguard historical records, preserve old sites and structures, fund exhibitions and programs, and support local celebrations. The Nashville area got grants across all the categories.
So the Nashville City Cemetery received a grant to create some new tours. And a couple of the tours relate to Revolutionary War veterans that are buried in the cemetery. The public libraries in Rutherford County are doing a variety of really cool lectures, public events, children's educational events about history in Tennessee, not just the Revolutionary period, but other periods as well. And then the fourth one I want to mention from this area is Fisk University, that received a grant from us to support the Jubilee Singers taking a special trip back to England to commemorate the history of some of the early Jubilee Singers tours.
Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day.
Whatever the form, people clearly see this milestone as something worth marking in a special way.
I think it's the greatest country on earth, and we've been here for 250 years, and I hope we're here for 250 more.
It's like a good celebration, right? Like 250 years of America. This is not a small thing, right?
My family are immigrants. My dad is from Peru. And I think the amazing thing about this country is how it's such a melting pot of cultures. So I love America so much.
For Nashville Public Radio, I'm Mary Mancini.
Plans for me. So I did my part, waiting in the hospital for a new heart.
In case you hadn't heard, WPLN is marking the 250th with a year of curated looks back at Tennessee history. The latest installment of The Backstory is out now. We're highlighting several past installments of this podcast that tell about times when Tennessee has changed the nation's course, from women's suffrage and the Trail of Tears to a landmark congressional redistricting lawsuit and the origin of airport security. Again, it's called The Backstory, and you can find it at WPLN.org. We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener-supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Since the holiday lands on a Saturday, WPLN is closed for business tomorrow, and that includes this podcast. But let's make this 4th a good one, and we'll catch back up next week.